Now I'm going to be using cobalt hue. I have a little bit left of that. Some metallic gold, some plain white, some metallic lavender, and some black. And this yucky colour grey I'm going to pour as a pillow to help the paint flow around and over to the edges. These are all from Areldo di Paolo, bought from Riot online. Pouring medium that I'm using today, as always, 50% PVA, 25% water, 25% Floetrol. And I am going to be using my Lazy Susan to spin it around. There's no silicone added to these paints at all, just straight paint and pouring medium. Now, I'm going to use this little jug here to put my paints into, and then I'm going to pour them out. Putting down my pillow first of all. This is just all of my leftover paint mixed in together. It makes this lovely grey. Now, I'm not quite sure about the order of the paints. I'd like the white to come out last, so I'm going to put the white in first. I'm not going to worry too much about trying to layer it, but I'm pouring from quite low, so it won't mix up too much. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this out slowly as I spin slowly. I can hardly find my handle, it's camouflaged. So I'm going to spin fairly slowly, not too fast at this stage, and I'm going to try to pour this into the center. Try is the operative word. It's actually quite hard to pour this into the center while it's spinning around. I can see some of the gold coming out, a little bit of the blue, and the white should be the last of all. I hope to get that kind of cloudy effect in the center. A little bit of white and black together. Okay. Well, that looks quite interesting. Let's have a look. I can see some nice rings of colour, and the white has come out last. All right, I'm going to give it a bit of a faster spin. Actually, I think I might just put some of this stuff down first to help it cover and not roll over on itself. All right. Going to give it a spin and see what happens. Not too fast at this stage, just want to try and push it out to the edges. Okay, this has moved quite a lot and it's moved down this direction. Going to move it back down that way a little bit if I can. Just a bit. Now we'll give it another spin. Not very much black in here. I might just add, don't have a lot of black left, might just add a little bit. Just to highlight that beautiful lavender and the white areas a little bit. I'll try to pour it kind of on the outside edge a little bit. how that will go. Let's spin again. I think I want a little bit more black in here. Let's spin it again. This time I'm going to try for a little bit more black, a little bit closer in. Always makes a bit of a blob when you do it the first time. Alright, now we've got a nice black spiral. Alright, let me give it a good spin this time. Alright. Yep, virtually no gold at all. So I've run out. I'm going to mix up a little bit more, put a little bit more over the top, I think, because I really want some of that gold to show through. Hopefully doing it this way, the gold will stick around. I can see really tiny little bits, but it must have just been completely overwhelmed by the other colours. Not exactly sure where I should put it. Maybe a little bit around the outside edges as well. All right. What is that blob there? Well, at least now we have some gold in there. Maybe a little bit in the middle here, perhaps. That's ended up a bit blobby. Alright, now if you saw my last video, or one of the other videos, if you saw one of the other videos, you'll see that I took a skewer stick and just kind of interfered with the lines a little bit and then spun it some more. That's what I'm going to do now. Just totally randomly. Some of these lines are so delicate, I don't really want to mess them up. Trying to do just a little bit of a swirly in and out sort of a pattern. Swirly gigs. A bit too much gold in the middle here, I think, so. Alright, I don't think I want to touch this black line here because it's so very delicate. Maybe through the purple and white here. Now maybe through these two gold ones here. I don't want to overdo it. I love the lines along the edges, the very delicate faint lines. At least I'm going to have quite a lot of gold showing up with this one when it dries. It looks very pale at the moment. But when it dries, the gold will really shine up brightly and the lavender, metallic lavender will as well. I'm just adding to the pattern just a little bit, just where I feel that it needs something a little bit extra. Often we don't know what that little bit extra is, but it's fun to kind of draw on it and see what we end up with. I'm just going to get my phone and take you in for a close-up. This is how it looks at the moment. I'm going to bring you in for a close-up to show you some of the swirls that I've made and also the pattern in the middle. It's a little bit hard to see from up high. It gets quite a lot more intricate as you come in a lot closer. So I've just pulled the colour into some other areas for a little bit of interest. I've done that with my skewer stick and just done some organic wavy sort of patterns through it. Okay, let's zoom back out again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this one dry, and then I'm going to bring you straight back to show you the dried result. Don't go away. I'm using my Artline pen, which is water-based, and just a paintbrush, medium size with a pointy tip. And this is what I'm doing. I'm accentuating some of the lines with my pen, and then with a moist brush, I'm just adding a little bit of shadow along the inside edge. And you can see already that it's really standing out a lot better. I'll just bring you in a little closer so you can see what I've done in the center there. So I'm just going to choose some of the lines to accentuate and shade in the hope that it might give it a little bit more depth. I have a little bit more of a 3D effect. Starting to look a lot better now. I put some blue shading in some of the areas, and now what I'm doing is I'm using my black Artline pen to do the same thing, going around the very outside of the pattern to make it look as though it's sitting above the background of the canvas. I've almost finished the shading on this one now. I've added shading around the very outside edges just so that it looks a little bit deeper, give it a little bit of depth. So this part here in the center actually looks a little bit more like it's coming forward, and the background looks as though it's receding. Okay, I'm finished with all the line work and the shading now, and I think the shading has made it look a little bit more three-dimensional. So the shading that I added around here has helped this section here to sort of stand forward, and then I also added a little bit of shading around the center part here in the hope that the very top part of the painting, which is this part here, would stand out. Now the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a couple of little touches of white, and I'm going to have a light source coming from a corner, so maybe from here perhaps, and I'm going to just add tiny little flecks of white just to add to the three-dimensional effect. Here's the finished result. All the shading and the highlighting has been done. The lighting's coming from this top corner and shining down on some of the little areas that you can see that I've highlighted in white. All of this helps to give it a 3D effect. Now I've got it sitting on just normal bake paper so that I'll be able to get it off easily, and under the bake paper I just have a piece of aluminium sheet so that when I have finished putting PVA all over it, I'll be able to pick it up and move it around without getting glue everywhere. Now I'm going to work quite quickly because the PVA being water-based, and some of the paint and the ink on this is also water-based, if I do too much rubbing or scrubbing, I'm going to end up smearing some of these areas. So I'm going to go fairly quickly and not worry too much about rubbing it over and making sure that I've done a really thorough job. As long as it's all covered, then that's all good. This is the PVA glue that I use. I get it from Bunnings. Love PVA glue. It's good for so many different things. Now all I'm going to do is pour it on and hope for the best. And I'm going to just smear it around without trying too hard in one area because I really don't want my paint to smudge. Alright, now that's quite a lot of glue, so it might take a couple of days to dry. So I'm going to pop it away somewhere safe. Here's the dried result of the painting. It's dried really nicely. It has a lovely sheen to it that the PVA has given it. Let's go for a close-up. The really nice thing that happened was that the PVA brought out some kind of colour in the ink. As you can see here, it's a green colour, even though I was using a black ink pen, and it's ended up almost being like an opal colour, opalescent in colour. It's quite beautiful. The other thing that the PVA has done is that it's slightly blurred the lines, so you haven't got that really sharp kind of a finish. Here's another example of where it's gone quite green, and here, and especially here. So there must be something in the ink of the pen that I was using that, when wet, gives it a greenish tinge. Quite unusual, but nice. Something unexpected, but quite lovely. I'm not quite sure if I can tilt it to give you a bit of an idea of the shine. Okay, so you get a bit of an idea there. The PVA has given it a beautiful shiny effect. Really brought out the colours a lot, just the way resin would do, but without all the hassles of resin. You can see how shiny it is, and the texture is quite lovely too. Because I just put the PVA on and just kind of smirched it everywhere, it's given quite a lovely texture to the surface. So that's it finished. I'd love you to let me know what you think in the comments below. I really love the way it turned out now.